So here we are. I'm John Heisel. I'm an instructional designer and instructor with Jim Hutchison.
Who's also an instructional designer and instructor.
All right. So our question today, and this is the topic for the discussions this week, is 21st century learning.
What is 21st century learning?
Nice. So we've been going over this and just spent some time talking about this. Jim showed me this interesting website, which is 21stcenturyschools.com, that we'll share with you guys. But yeah, I'll just so give me a summary here, Jim. What does that mean, 21st century learning?
Well, I think the first thing to realize is the term's probably a little bit overused. It's a bit of a buzzword. We hear a lot of it, and I don't think it's been well defined. And this particular website, I think, does a pretty good job of sort of juxtaposing the 21st century approach to teaching against, what we might call the older 20th century approach, using that language. So if you kind of look through here, they've got on the left-hand side are so-called 20th century schools, and on the right-hand side you've got your 21st century schools, and they just list some characteristics. So for example, time-based instruction versus outcome-based instruction. Focusing on, okay, I got a lesson, it's going to last 50 minutes today, we're going to finish it, and tomorrow we're going to have a new lesson, last 50 minutes, we're going to move forward. Whereas in a 21st century classroom, a more outcome-based approach would be, I want to make sure my students have learned X, whatever it is I want them to learn today, and if it takes 2 days, if it takes 3 days, we're going to keep going on this until they've learned what it is we want them to learn. We're not going to base it on time.
Yeah, and that seems to go really with that whole flipped model. It's basically like you present them with the objectives, they have an assignment, and then they do it. They show up for class. If they haven't done it, then they either work on it in class or they're way behind the curve.
You keep working at it. I mean, it says it further down on the list here. We'll get to it probably a little bit later on, but I forgot what it actually said now. Higher expectations. That's what it was. There's the 20th century model might have been more low expectations. All I expect is that you're going to do the assignments and bring them to school. And if you don't bring them in and turn them in, you're going to get a bad grade. Whereas 21st century approach is much more of a higher expectation. I don't expect just that you're going to do the assignment. I expect that you're going to come prepared, that you're going to work at a high level, that you're going to be engaged, and we're not settling for any less than that. So, and you communicate that early on, maybe even through your syllabus.
Yeah, and I love these. We both have the mouse.
We can fight.
These graphics here. So this is the classic 20th century, like what is that, a 1800 schoolhouse?
Yeah.
Chalk and talk. You can see the students there, the teachers at the front of the room, and tell us what's going on with this one on the right.
I think it was just they're trying to get a picture of a more. They're trying to juxtapose. I mean, there's plenty of classrooms that still look the same as the one on the left, but the one on the right looks like it's outdoor ed, experiential education, something along those lines, that has students out and about doing things. It's hands-on. It's problem-based. I don't know exactly what they're doing in that picture, but
it looks like they're at the zoo, actually.
Yeah, so. Like the Poudre Learning Center. Anybody who knows about that. It's an outdoor education kind of place where students interact and engage. They do inquiry-based projects. So it looks something along those lines. There was one more down here that I wanted to make sure we hit.
I think active and
passive learning. Sure. Again, that 20th century model was a lot of chalk and talk. It was the instructor just telling students things and expecting them to remember it or maybe to do something with it. But a lot of it was that, listen to me, and even if you're presenting that in a new format via video or something, or even text through an online shell, it's a lot of just students absorbing content. And the active learning model is a big shift towards. There still has to be some absorption of content. You still have to have an idea of what it is you're going to do, how you're going to use what it is you're learning to do something.
Yeah.
But the focus now is more on doing. Oftentimes it's doing it maybe before you've even fully grasped the concept, because it is through the doing that you build that understanding and you really start to grasp something. So I think, that's that more active model. It's like, here,
Yeah.
go do something with this, even if you're not clear about it yet. Build something, make a project out of this, solve some problem, and via that action and interaction,
It really
that
gets into like kinesthetic learning.
Yeah.
And actually, yeah.
student-centered versus teacher-centered. That's part of it as well.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Again, the chalk and talk. That's a much more teacher-centered model, and
Right.
once you turn it over to students and say, you do something with this, and oftentimes it may sound a little bit curt to say it this way, but it's almost like you don't care what they do. You do care, but you're not defining, and actually it says it down a little bit further. With the way students interact, I don't know where it went. Curriculum's connected. Oh, I think it's under the discipline problems, where it says, the 20th century model, you didn't trust your students and you tended to have more discipline issues when there was that lack of trust.
All right.
And in the 21st century model, I wouldn't go as far as say there's no discipline problems, but it's definitely a more of a model of trust and saying, I want you to engage in this content. I want you to do something, and I trust that you're going to do something that's useful, that really shows that you're engaging in this content. And I'm not going to define for you that I want all these pieces. It's that trust. I'm going to trust you to come up with something that's useful. And oftentimes, once you've developed this model, the students end up doing a lot more.
Yeah.
I've got a class right now, and I'm grading all of our unit projects. They're just pass-fail. I'm not concerned about going through and grading every little minute aspect of something. I want them to look at the bigger process, the bigger picture, and do something with it. And they're turning in a lot of work. They're putting a lot of thought into something that is a pass-fail assignment. I mean, they could have gotten by with a whole lot. I didn't tell them that. Mm-hmm. I left it open-ended, and we just simply have that trust piece that I trust that you're going to make this meaningful and important to you.
Yeah. Nice. And that was our barking dog, because apparently attention span's 7 minutes?
7 minutes.
So that's your little teaser.
Unless you tuned out 2 minutes ago, then it's 5 minutes.
Yeah, and if you send me an email, that'll be Black Dog, and we'll give you some extra credit. How about that? That'll be our teaser. And just to close, it's more about the journey than the destination. I think that goes really well.
Yeah, exactly. It's process. It's process learning versus product
learning. And great. Well, thanks, Jim, and look forward to seeing what you guys post about what are examples of 21st century learning and seeing